Hi guys, and welcome to the Insiders community. I am so excited about this. I've shared my bread recipe many times, which is what we're going to be making today. So I thought I would take this month and just show you guys exactly how we're going to be doing the bread. So I've got my warm milk here, and I'm just going to put 2 tablespoons of my sugar over the top, and then 1 tablespoon of my yeast. So I'm just gonna mix this up a little bit, nothing fancy. And now I'm just gonna let this sit for 5 minutes, and you'll know it's ready when you see it bubbling, which I'm gonna show you in just a moment. All right, so while we're gonna let our yeast mixture do its thing, I'm gonna get 1, 2, 3, 4, supposed to take a while, 5, and I need to get more flour. That wasn't quite 6. 6. Okay, and then I'm going to use 1.5 teaspoons salt. I've already got my oil measured out. Put my oil in there. I literally just start dumping everything in here at once. I'm telling you, this is just such an easy recipe because this is how I make it. I throw it together in here every time. I'm gonna put 2 cups. Actually, I start out with about 1.5 cups, and then if I need more, I'll add the rest. You can hear my dog out there. He's wanting inside. My egg. And then that in it, and then I'm gonna go check the yeast real quick. All right guys, look at the bubbles on top of that. That is what you want your yeast mixture to look like. I'm gonna go over here. I'm just gonna dump it in here with the rest of my ingredients. And now to mix. Put in my yeast mixture. I've got everything in here, and now I'm just gonna mix it all up. So I'm just gonna begin mixing everything up until it is well combined. And like I said, I have that little bit of milk right there on the side. If I need more, I'm just gonna put a little bit more in there. It's looking like I might. Let's just do a little bit more of it. This really is a simple process. There's nothing to it. You can put this in a bread machine and let the bread machine do the job. You can put it in the KitchenAid. I just wanted to show you guys how to do it by hand. But right now you could absolutely put a dough hook on this and do it in the KitchenAid. Alright, so things are starting to get combined, so I'm gonna put a little bit of Now that my dough has started coming together, I'm just going to actually mix it in the bowl for just a little bit. I do this, you can actually just sprinkle your flour over it and start it straight onto a floured surface. This is just the way I do it for no particular reason, but I will begin the kneading process here pretty soon. And once I do that, the whole purpose of kneading your bread, it's to make sure that you're working the ingredients together, and it's going to form the dough and evenly mix everything. And what you want to do is you want to develop the structure of the interior, which is the inside, and that's the crumb. Kneading your bread is basically just folding it. You can do this by pressing it into the center with the heel of your hand. I do a backwards knead, but I found that it works just as well either way. It's really not a complicated process. You can see here where I'm taking it and I'm folding it up into the inside of the dough. I do it backwards. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I'm dyslexic, but it works for me. But you can do this also by folding it inside with the heel of your hand, and it works just as well. I always find the bread process so interesting. It's very scientific, and a lot of, chefs will say that one of the most crucial steps of baking bread will happen long before it hits inside the oven, and it's very true. Kneading the dough and allowing the proper rise is what is basically going to give you the outcome of your bread. And kneading is very important because during the process of kneading the dough, you have two key proteins. Those two key proteins that are within the flour are going to combine, and they're actually going to form strands of gluten. And when you knead the dough, you're warming up those strands, and that allows the proteins to expand during the fermentation, and that's going to really encourage the molecules to bond, and it's going to make a very elastic dough, and it's going to give you a much better structure. Like I said, it's very scientific, but I do think it's extremely interesting, because you're just simply making bread, but you're not simply making bread. And once you have it down, it is so easy to do. That's why when I hear people say, oh, I can't get it down, like I don't know how to bake bread, bake bad bread. The best way to go about learning is just through good, old-fashioned first-hand experience. And once you do it several times over, you'll begin to learn what works, what doesn't work, if maybe you should leave a little bit of flour out, if maybe you should add a little bit more milk. The different altitudes also affect your baking, so that's something, again, you'll learn eventually once you've done this several times over. It's just all a part of the learning process. For myself, it took me a bit of time to know when my bread dough was done kneading. And so now I've kind of hit the sweet spot of like 8 to 10 minutes, and then I get that real nice smooth elastic texture. But I'm not going to make you guys watch me knead for 10 minutes, so we're going to skip right along here. My bread dough is done, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in the big bowl here, and I'm going to get out my unbleached parchment paper. You'll see me using this all the time. I love this stuff. And I just will put that right over the top of my bowl, and then I'm going to put something over that to kind of keep the air out. All right, so I'm going to show you guys. You can see it is doubled in size. You can poke your finger into it, and it still kind of leaves an indentation. So that lets me know we're done. We can go ahead and put it over here. And what I do is I'm going to get it out. And I really don't need very much. I just do, that's it. All I'm going to do as far as kneading. So now I'm going to think, all right, do I want bread loaves or however I'm making it today? I'm going to make it into bread loaves, so I'm going to show you. All right, so for my bread loaves, I'm going to take my unbleached parchment paper. If you crumble your parchment paper up just like this, it will shake so much better when you put it into the pan. Well, it's supposed to. There we go. So I'm going to cut this in half. All right, so I'm going to take this and I'm just going to pinch the bottom part just so I have a nice, flat, pretty top for my loaf. Put it in the loaf pan just like that. All right, so that's one way to do the loaf, which is just very simple and easy. I like to have flaky layers. So let me show you my trick for flaky layers. I'm gonna let this sit because as you can see, it's a little hard to mess with right now as I've just taken it out of the rise. So I just kind of work it out just a little bit. Kind of like that. Now I'm gonna let this sit for about 2 minutes, and it always just makes it so much easier to roll out. So I'm gonna let this sit for 2 minutes. I'm gonna come back and then we're going to roll it out. Got our dough. Let me just show you. I'm just gonna roll it out, and remember, you want a floured surface. The flour is your friend, because what this is gonna do is keep your dough from sticking to your rolling pin. It's gonna keep the dough from sticking to your surface and just make everything so much easier in the process. Now, if your dough seems to be stubborn and it doesn't want to roll out and be like super elastic, I just leave it alone for a few minutes and then I come back to it. But right here, you can see that I'm going to begin rolling it up really tight. The tighter you roll it, the more layers you're going to be creating. And you can also take and add butter here, and this creates almost a giant French croissant effect, and it is amazing. I'm not even kidding you. It's delicious. The layers, you just pull it apart and you just have layer after layer of delicious bread. This is also where I get creative, and I'll put in cinnamon sugar or brown sugar. Sometimes I'll put in raisins. You can put in like peach filling or whatever. You can literally fill your bread with whatever you want to make it with. Right now I'm making a sandwich loaf, so I'm just going to leave it alone. But I just kind of shape it back into the general idea of a sandwich loaf, and then I'll put it back into my loaf pan right here. And then I'm just going to pat it down a little bit, and then I'm going to put it and allow it to rise. One of the biggest problems I see when people are making bread is they don't know how to get a proper rise out of the second rise. I just stick it in my little oven here, and I'll put a light on, or I'll like preheat it just for like a minute. And then I shut the door and I leave it in there until it rises, and this usually works perfect. All right, guys, you can see the loaves are rising. This was the one I put in first, so it rose first, and then this is the one that took me a bit to roll out, but they should come out just about the same when I bake them. All right, I was going to show you guys taking it out of the oven, and look at this. Burnt the top because it rose so high. All right, I want to keep this as real life as possible, so I'm just going to keep these loaves and show you guys what I did to them. Obviously, they were cooked way close to the top. They rose higher than I wanted them to, so now the tops are a little bit more brown than I would like, but it doesn't matter. They're still going to taste delicious. They're still going to be the same. And now comes the fun part. You get to cut into your bread. You want to wait an hour or two before doing this if it's going to be for sandwich loaves. That's not always the case for our family because we love hot, fresh bread. But if you're cutting it up for sandwiches, it's much easier to cut if you wait a few hours. You can see there, when you press down on this bread, it should spring right back up at you. You want it light and airy. This gives you the perfect sandwich bread. I'm not even kidding. It's absolutely delicious. And it's so easy to make. The recipes are very simple. When I make a loaf, or 2 loaves, this recipe makes 2 loaves. When I make it, normally one will be for like a sandwich loaf throughout the week, and then the other one will kind of be for our breakfast, like French toast, or I'll make croutons with it. And oh, the thing with French toast is that's another thing that's really nice. When this bread goes stale, it makes the best French toast. Your French toast is actually better when you've waited and let it get a little bit stale because it cooks better. But look at that. That's such a nice sandwich loaf to have. I hope this video has been helpful for you guys, and I especially hope it's made you want to go bake some bread.